So the first generation of Pakistanis who migrated overseas, predominantly to UK and the Middle East, were my father's generation. And they couldn't speak the language of the countries they moved to. They didn't understand the culture. And regrettably, because of the independence, the infrastructure wasn't here for them to have acquired high level of skills or education. But they had one and only one vision in life. That was to eliminate the poverty of their families. And I can tell you, I was privileged enough as a youngster to be in the households where these pioneers, these people who sacrificed their youth for their families actually lived. So I want to pay homage and gratitude to that first generation of Asians who laid the foundation for my generation, because they didn't have the education and the skills. What they did was make sure that my generation actually had the education. So across the globe, the business people, the professionals, the academics that you see of my age are directly beneficiaries of that hard work. Now the third generation, and probably the guys who are sat here, are the ones who now take the helm of the economy of decision making. So very quickly, I will move to them for them to introduce very briefly in 1 minute what they are, and then we'll have a discussion in terms of what they think Pakistan can do for them and what they can do for Pakistan with the Pakistanis and, most importantly, the global community. So I'll start with yourself, Sohail.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So my name is Sohail. I'm a lawyer. I work for a large law firm. We're the largest law firm in the world, DLA Piper. I'm based in the UK. I'm a director at DLA Piper, and I have a fairly broad practice area. Principally, I do global disputes and arbitration.
Okay, my name's Amir Hussain. I'm running a business in Bradford in England called Jamie Architects, and it's essentially a transformational built environment business that builds buildings that responds to needs in society. And what I've found is that the Asian community in certainly parts of the UK that are struggling or that are aspiring to do something really, really aspirational, we've often found that we've got things that have been able to achieve more for them. And for me, as a British-born Pakistani, the roots back to Pakistan have always been very strong. And I've had a lot of interactions with Pakistan. So for me, that's something that's very important.
Over to you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name's Amjad. I am the chief executive of a company called Rehability UK. We're one of the largest service providers for children and adults with learning disability, autism, and forensic mental health needs. Yeah, that's it.
Assalamu alaikum everybody. My name is Fahad Khan and I'm from Canada. I have a marketing agency for the last 10 years, and alhamdulillah we've been the fastest growing company for 3 years in a row. So now what brings me to Pakistan is the future, what we have here, and the vision Amjad Bhai and Khurram Bhai has too. So I'm also a speaker, so I talk about mindset, coaching, and I've been very fortunate to partner and work with some of my partners in Fortune 500 companies, and we want to bring the same culture to our country here in Pakistan.
Yeah, my name is Rashida. I left Pakistan when I was 6 years old. So I don't know if that classes me as first immigration or a second generation immigration. But my experience is I was a senior manager at the world's local bank, HSBC, for 23 years. And for the last 8 years, I've been serving humanity through my NGO efforts. I worked with various large NGOs, currently working for Muslim Aid, but I do a lot of work in serving Pakistan through my charity work that I do with very, very small charities.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. So, I mean, the probability is that most of you were born over there. If not, you went there at an early age. You're very successful, you're educated, you probably have your families over there. Why Pakistan? You know, everybody says it's corrupt, it's, you know, the environment is dangerous. So what brings you to Pakistan, and what are you expecting from Pakistan, and what can you give to Pakistan? So we'll start with this.
For me, Pakistan is home. Yeah. My mother, just a bit about background, when we left Pakistan back in 1977, 2 months after we got to the UK, my father passed away. But one thing my mother did throughout her whole life was maintained her contacts with Pakistan. She came here every single year relentlessly, which forced us to actually love Pakistan as well. Now, unfortunately, I've lost her in the last 6 years, but I wanted to maintain her legacy in her love for Pakistan. So hence, I've come here to look at opportunities. And one of the things that I've come here for today is I've brought my young graduate daughter, wow, who's a second generation Pakistani, although she recognizes herself as a British Muslim. But I brought her here to even just give her a glimpse, or just an ounce of the love, for her to feel the love that I feel for Pakistan. And if there is something that she can do for Pakistan, or I can do for Pakistan, then I think the future is here.
Thank you. And Sohail?
Yeah, much the same. I've not spent any time, any material time here in Pakistan. All my family now are in the UK. I do a lot of global work. Alhamdulillah, the work that I do is fascinating, interesting stuff. But there's always been a gap. There's always been something where I felt it would be great to be able to add value in a slightly more meaningful way in the work that I do. So we work for a lot of big corporate organizations. As a firm, we have a huge focus on 3 main areas because we recognize that's where the growth is going to be. So India, Africa, and China. And it's always pained me to see why Pakistan, which I think as an ecosystem is equally, if not more friendly than any of these jurisdictions, why we're not placing that same level of emphasis on investment. And a lot of that, in my view, is to do with perception. And so one of the reasons why I'm here is to try and help Pakistan change that perception. If a big global brand like ours is here, it gives me far more meaning to be able to do a job where I feel as though I'm adding value, but to a country that I love and I ultimately call home.
Thank you. Don't you think, and I'll come to you, Amir, in a minute. So at my age, I've gone to university, set my own business, worked in a lot of institutions, public and private, done a lot of work in Pakistan. I've always felt, maybe, you know, I wasn't born in UK, but I have always felt there was something missing. So, you know, you can eat the best food across the globe, but there was always something special about Pakistani food. So you can listen to the best music across the globe, but you know, when it was the Bhangra music, it was the best. So, Amir, do you think there are psychological reasons, and obviously you sit on the local enterprise partnership. So how do we fuse these two kind of different realms that we operate? I almost call it schizophrenic personality.
You know, I think identity is a very deep and a very psychological thing. And I think that if you look at any demographic or any community that has left its roots and gone and moved somewhere else, they tend to, I find, stick with what they historically have been. And I think if you look at the English people that moved to Hong Kong, for example, they're more British than the British people. If you look at the English living in Spain, they've kept everything the same as it is in England. And I think that for a lot of people of Pakistani origin, there's something that means you're not fully in England as an English person. So if I describe myself, I describe myself as a British Asian. I don't describe myself as English. Now, some of my English friends have said, well, why not? Why would you not describe yourself as English? You know, you're born here, you live here, the colour of your skin should not make any difference.
But it does.
But it does, and it might be that there's something psychological. So I think partly there's an issue around psychology of your identity. And I think that ultimately everybody wants to feel some sense of pride or some sense of respect or some sense of their own izzat that gives them some kind of grounding in wherever it is that they live. Now, if Pakistan, forgive me, is considered to be a basket case, is considered to be a place that's got terrible corruption, if it's seen to be a place that's viewed very negatively, well, even though I'm born in England and I live in England and all my dealings are in England, that still has some connection to me. And it actually hurts me personally when there's something that happens related to Pakistan that is negative. Now, that link means that, as Sohail mentioned, you start to have a vested interest in what happens in Pakistan and what might improve it. And I think the recent election of Imran Khan has been one of those things where there's a lot of people overseas who've had a view of this, even though we don't live here, we don't pay the taxes here, we don't have the implications to be affected directly by the things that those policies have. But we've all got an interest in what happens here. So I think that kind of explains it.
So Amjad, you live in Birmingham. So do you think that, I know we're all here, we believe in this, and I'm now almost asking for a 360 kind of stuff. I keep saying we're not a perfect organization, and every one of you that brings a skill to this organization through the sectors brings that us closer to that perfection, if there is such thing as perfection. So your kind of experience of JumpStart Pakistan and how you may contribute through the sectors or otherwise, and how other people may, when we call it a movement, because every single person that joins it, we can't micromanage. The day we start micromanaging that person, we've lost the plot. So if I may start with you, Sohail, what did you think? Where do you think the future is? And then we have to conclude, because otherwise we're in trouble of rambling.
Yeah, when I was first introduced to Amjad, and also the idea of JumpStart was explained to me, I think the main selling point and the thing that I think you've sort of nailed on the head is the fact that in order to make any organization succeed, you need the right people, you need the right expertise. And I think your vision of bringing external funders, financial institutions, management consultancy firms, private equity houses, venture capitalists, technology firms is absolutely the right thing, because a number of these businesses in Pakistan, like every emerging market that we're in, we see the same story, that a business has a great idea, it gets to a certain level, and then it hits a ceiling.
Yep.
And in order for it to get past that ceiling, it needs either equity injection, it needs funding, or it needs some new techniques, whether it's technology, and we know now we live in a world where technology is absolutely critical. Blockchain, fintechs, they are the future. And I think your organization, when I heard that the caliber of people that you were bringing, some of the names, you know,
you can criticize it if you want. You know, I'm humbled by the praise.
No, I think it was it's a recipe for success to have the right people. I mean, I take that back to my own sort of workplace where we work. It's not about having the best lawyers necessarily to make a great law firm. It's about making sure that everyone knows what his place is and having the right people. Because if without a marketing strategy, you're nothing. Without the rainmakers bringing in the work, you're nothing. Without the technical lawyers, you're nothing. And I think that's true for every business. And that hopefully is the reason why I think this thing will work.
Amir?
Yeah, I think this thing that you're talking about is the fundamental issue that not just Pakistan's facing, but actually societies all around the world are facing. And that is that where technological change is driving an impact, where social trends are driving an impact, where people's livelihoods are being replaced by automation, how do you manage this transition between a new generation of people who understand it and who can execute it and who can do it, and the people who are left behind? I think it's I think it's widely known, and Amjad may correct me, but the levels of connectivity between us all is higher than it's ever been, yet the levels of loneliness are higher than they've ever been. The levels of isolation are higher, the levels of depression, the levels of anger are higher. So there's a lot of issues around this transition that I think are really fundamental. In order to try and ensure that nobody is left behind, in the West we talk about inclusive growth, and that is how do you get the growth that this is all about, that this is trying to achieve, but how do you do it in a way that doesn't leave behind people? And it's the left behind people that I think can be seen to be voting for Donald Trump or far-right policies or for this increasing polarization that we're seeing right across the world. So in my view, it's actually understanding the supply chains and how technology inserted into certain parts of a supply chain actually have benefits within the supply chain itself. And I think if it's done in a way that recognizes the supply chain benefits, then I think you can transmit that success more equitably across society.
Thank you. Amjad?
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to focus on JumpStart itself because we communicated, I think, via LinkedIn this summer.
Yeah.
We had, on the same day, an hour's conversation. I thought, what are these crazy guys doing, launching this kind of event in Pakistan? Alhamdulillah, within the first 4 or 5 months of having a conversation, we've employed over 20 people based here in Islamabad.
Well done.
And we have committed to open 1,000 primary clinics within the next 2 years.
Wow.
So number one is the employment side of it that we push based on the security that JumpStart give us.
Yeah.
So my biggest issue was, how do I secure my business? How do I secure my investment? And how do I secure my time? Time is critical for us. So JumpStart convinced me to make the investment here. So that was one thing about creating employment, having the security of JumpStart around us. And the second thing was, which I think both yourself and Hurrem have been pushing, is the investment into SMEs. So in our offices in Islamabad, we are committing to developing an incubator for a minimum of 3 different businesses where we will pay fully for their startup to allow not just our businesses to grow, but other people's ideas and businesses to grow. So JumpStart has created trust in overseas investors.
Thank you. So it's all about trust. Over to you.
So for me, I was invited last year as a guest speaker, so I saw the organization and then I went back. Then I said, this is a great platform for people to connect. And starting this year, I started approaching Hurrem Bhai. I said, I want to be here. It took me 10, 15 times. Then finally he responded. Then we talked for an hour and a half. So when I'm going to be part of some organization or give my time, effort, I'm looking for a leader. What are they bringing? So when I saw that he's giving me an hour and a half time explaining the vision with so much passion, I said, I will be here before. And when I arrived, first time when we had an interaction, the thing which touched me said, I'm going to commit my time and my expertise would be is the person is humble. He is grounded and still he's successful. So for me, it was great. And then my mentor always have taught, and one thing is proximity is power. When we are together in the right proximity, like Amjad Bhai and everybody, we can do so much, and my goal is to create opportunities here too. So the reason I came is not only to serve, but how can we collaborate, create more leaders, more organizations, more money for this country, because at the end, of course, when we are creating more, we can experience more, we're going to live more, and at the end, we can give more.
Finally to you.
Thank you. I mean, coming from the NGO sector, in the last 8 years, all we've done that I've been involved in is giving money to help people get by. So when I saw JumpStart, I thought, this is absolutely fantastic initiative, because it's actually giving the people the tools to actually do a job. And having worked in Pakistan in the last 6 years, I've come across so many intelligent people, and especially the youth. All they need is a bit of guidance, a bit of structure, a bit of trust, that they and hope for the future. So for me, I think it's an excellent initiative. I wish it all the well in the future. A bit of constructive criticism. We need to have a few more females, inshallah.
We have actually a group. Some of these people we've got over 100 women who've got their own group, so you're most welcome. Brilliant. To that, and they will be having sessions. So thank you very much to the panelists, and I'll end by summarizing. So the first generation of pioneers had a single vision of alleviating poverty. They passed us their good wishes through education and enterprise. There's a danger, I think, that if the journey that my generation had of coming to Pakistan, and in some cases horrible journeys and experiences, if we do not correct them for the next generation and the generations that are coming behind them, there is a real danger economically that this 20 billion odd that you're getting will not actually come this way. And that will really cause a lot of problems for us. But I think the real message here is, like I said, the common denominator that actually brings us together is love for Pakistan. We, the overseas Pakistanis, are not here to tell you where you're wrong. But equally, we're not here to be exploited and be the cash cows for Pakistan. So what I say to you in my ending remarks is that we must collaborate, which all of you have said. We must treat each other as equal partners and equal stakeholders in our motherland. When we do that, inshallah, we'll be stronger together building a great nation. Thank you very much to the panel, and thank you for listening to us.